I just love her. She is a spiritual teacher. She's a speaker. She opens up her house to many students like myself to teach intuition and to help people reach their full potential. So I'm excited tonight that we all are going to witness her speaking and teaching, and hopefully she will impart a little bit of wisdom into all of us this evening. So I introduce my spiritual teacher, mentor, and friend, Miss Diane Brandon.
So when we talk about waking up, when we talk about opening up, at the very minimum, we're talking about people opening up to the reality that this is not the only reality, this three-dimensional reality. I just saw Abby. But also, that's at the minimum. But also in other ways. I think for people who are opening up, it takes an awful lot of courage, because our culture, especially in the Western world, is very materialistic. I don't mean just accumulating money. It is focused on the material. It is very pragmatic. And so how many of you, as you have expressed spiritual things to people who may not have been receptive, have been told you're weird or you're different? So if you are at the beginning stages of opening up, I feel it takes a lot of courage. And it takes a lot of strength, because you have to swim upstream and you have to have the courage to listen to your own drumbeat and not do the norm. Also, as we're opening up, especially if you've had an experience that has opened you up, that has thrown you off, you lose your sense of what the norm is. And I'm going to read another quotation to you. This is by André Gide, who was a 20th century French novelist. One does not discover new lands without consenting to lose sight of the shore for a very long time. So have you ever gone through a shift and you're in that in-between stage and you're not really sure where you're going? That can really test your faith. That can test your sense of, do I persevere? Do I continue on? So I think you have to applaud yourselves for having that faith, for continuing to push forward. In addition to the opening up spiritually, we also know that we're in the midst of a huge paradigm shift. And I think this is a little bit different from opening up spiritually, because a paradigm shift is really involving our mental attitudes, our mindsets, our belief systems. So that's another shift that's going on. I actually feel that as a species, we have been seeded from at least the mid-20th century for shifts and changes. And I feel, again, that some of it is vertical and some of it is lateral, and I promise we'll get into that. But first, what I would like to do, oh, a slide, please. I'm very bad at remembering to shift the slides. It's a very mundane slide anyway. Well, that was about being seeded as a species. So you heard me. We don't need to look at that. And the next slide would be about vertical and lateral, but I'm going to be coming back to that anyway. I think it would be helpful to look at the past. Where has our consciousness been? And when I say consciousness, I'm talking about our orientation and our perspective. And I feel that it started with a very tribal mentality and orientation. Do you know what I mean by a tribal orientation? We associated primarily with people who were like us. I think this probably started when we were evolving, because it was survival. You know, if you didn't know where this quote-unquote foreign person was coming from, you didn't know if you would be attacked.
My friend, Bernie Ashman.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Who takes this?
I think I've got everything. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay in the back? Great. Well, it's great, great to be here tonight. When I was thinking about this talk on the way over here, I actually thought of something that one of the baseball players said that I really liked, Yogi Berra. And he said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And I always thought that was an interesting way to put it. And sometimes I feel that way about this time period. Yeah, I'm not going to spend a long time on the different ages, like the Aquarian age, the Piscean age, the Aries age. The research I did, usually people go back to like 10,000 BC to 8,000 BC to the age of Leo, and they'll go through all the signs to get us to where we are now. One thing that people find kind of interesting, and I did, about the way these 2,000-year periods work, they go retrograde. Somebody was surprised on Facebook one day. They asked me, well, if this is the age of Aquarius, why wasn't the previous one Capricorn? Why was it Pisces? And it has to do with something called the precession of the equinoxes. And without going into a whole astronomy explanation, the thing I found really kind of fascinating about this time period is, in my opinion, we're really right at the beginning of the Aquarian age. And by beginning, if you're talking about 2,000 years, and say it started in the 1950s or 1960s, that's not that long ago when you start thinking in terms of 2,000 years. So at the beginning of the Piscean age, you go back to like 1 AD, 2 AD to where we are now, it's an incredible amount of time period. What I have really felt about this time period and why it's so, in some ways, it's really gut-wrenching. It's very emotional. You just listen to the news and how people react to a statue or react to words that people say. And when you start combining Pisces, the age of Pisces, with Aquarius, in many ways we're still overlapped by the Piscean age. It's still in the atmosphere. It's certainly not over at this point. This is the first time that one age going into another is like a handoff between one outer planet to another. Neptune rules Pisces. Uranus rules Aquarius. And when you put those two together, that's quite a gigantic amount of energy that's really available on this planet right now. Pisces is a water sign, as most of you know. A lot about intuition, feeling, emotion. Aquarius has so much to do with the mental side of life. It's the logic, reinventing of oneself, freedom. So this is a rather powerful time period right now. I have a book at home by an astrologer from England, Liz Green, and it's called The Outer Planets and Their Cycles. And on the outline, in the notes that I put down, there was a chart in there by Carl Jung's daughter that I brought with me tonight that I really wanted to spend most of the time on. She really came up with an idea how to illustrate the Aquarian age. And what she did, if you look at this particular chart, she put as the ascendant or rising sign Aquarius. If you have most of you had charts done, or have several of you not ever had your chart done? If you have or you haven't, if you look at that horizontal line that's going across the center of this chart, if you're looking for the ascendant or rising sign, it starts at the first house where I wrote Aquarius, first house, on it. And what she did was, whenever she was researching an age, whether it was Pisces or Aquarius, she just made that the ascendant, and went around and set up a chart from that, which I found really kind of a fascinating way right now to explain, in some ways, what's going on right now.